Imagine this for a second. You're standing right at the edge of something huge, something you just can't get past. And the sheer size of it, it's like it's pressing down on you, makes it hard to breathe almost. Maybe it's a money crisis that just seems endless, empty bank account, bills piling up.
Yeah, that feeling of being completely overwhelmed.
Or it could be a relationship that's just shattered, right? So broken it feels like you could never put the pieces back together. Or maybe a tough health diagnosis, or being stuck in a dead-end job with absolutely no way out.
No escape route in sight.
Exactly. That feeling of being trapped, totally cornered, all the normal ways out are blocked, no exit. That crushing feeling of desperation, the fear that whatever you're up against is just too strong. It's something we all feel sometimes, isn't it? Maybe you're even feeling it right now.
Absolutely. That sense of helplessness, it's one of the most powerful feelings we have as humans. It just strips away our feeling of control. Our self-reliance makes us feel really vulnerable. And it's usually right then, isn't it? When all our own ideas have run out, when we've tried everything we can think of, that's when we often find ourselves reaching for, something bigger than us or someone.
Right, when we realize we need a power that's not our own.
Exactly.
And that, my friend, that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're not just going to, retell an old story. We want to pull out some really deep, timeless truths that speak right into those moments in your life, the moments when you feel completely backed into a corner. Our mission here is to take this huge, dramatic event from ancient history, the crossing of the Red Sea, from the book of Exodus, and really dig into the vital bits of knowledge, the surprising practical insights it still holds for your journey today.
It's more than just history.
Oh, way more. It's not just about what happened thousands of years ago, but why it still matters for you personally. Think of it like a powerful lesson about, divine intervention, about how we humans tick, and about these lasting principles of faith and resilience that still hit home today.
Like a shortcut to understanding something really fundamental.
Exactly. A shortcut to being really well informed about a story that honestly continues to shape how we think about God's power and human potential. Okay, so let's start unpacking this. When we think about the book of Exodus, usually the first person that pops into mind is Moses, right?
Right. He's the main character, the hero.
He's the guy confronting Pharaoh, leading the people out. He's the hero of the story, or is he? As we were digging into the sources, it felt like the focus kept kind of shifting almost deliberately towards someone else. Did you get that feeling too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one of the, most brilliant things about Exodus. It subtly, but really profoundly, shifts our focus away from the human leader, Moses, and onto the divine orchestrator, God himself. And that's not just, a theological point. It's actually kind of radical compared to most heroic stories we hear. Instead of just celebrating Moses' bravery or his cleverness, the story keeps pointing us back to God's power, his character, his unwavering commitment.
So God is the real protagonist.
In a way, yes. It reveals a protagonist whose power is just completely unmatched. It challenges our whole idea of what a hero even is. He's the central figure, and he reveals himself as a God of incredible love, solid truth, unwavering justice, real freedom, and boundless forgiveness.
Wow.
What becomes crystal clear as you read Exodus is God's faithfulness. He was always for his people, even when, let's be honest, they often acted like they were against him.
Yeah, they complained a lot.
They did. But he consistently showed them mercy. He offered encouragement, sharp correction when they needed it, and divine guidance, always leading them in the best way possible, even when they didn't see it.
So what was the main goal then? It wasn't just freeing slaves, was it? Just checking off a box?
No, not at all. The sources really emphasize that God's primary aim was to build and nurture this deep, meaningful, loving relationship with his chosen people, Israel. Yes, he wanted them to choose to worship and obey him, not because they were scared or felt obligated, but because they genuinely loved him and appreciated who he is, his perfect goodness. He knew this relationship was ultimately for their benefit, their highest good, not just his.
So it wasn't about just forcing them to comply.
Not at all. It was about real connection, a relationship built on trust that goes both ways.
And this isn't just some dusty old story for ancient Israel, is it? It has relevance for us now.
Absolutely. The Apostle Paul makes this incredibly clear. Writing to the church in Corinth in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 11, he says, "These things happened to them as an example, but they were written down for our instruction, on whom the end of the ages has come."
For our instruction.
Exactly. Paul's basically telling us these ancient stories are way more than just tales. They are, and I quote, a warning and a source of unforgettable instruction for us now. The spiritual principles underneath these events, they're timeless. They still apply today, no matter how much our world changes.
So the lessons about God's character, human nature, how we respond to God, they're always relevant.
Always. They give us a kind of blueprint for our own journey of faith and, well, surrender.
Okay, let's really paint the picture of Israel's situation back then. This wasn't just a group having a hard time. They were literally slaves, crushed under brutal Egyptian bondage.
Yeah, imagine being born into that. Your only purpose is forced labor, your identity completely stripped away.
It's hard to even comprehend.
It is, and that's why Exodus speaks so powerfully to anyone, anywhere, who feels oppressed, pushed to the margins, persecuted, or exploited. It offers this incredibly potent message of hope. The same God who saved the Hebrews back then can and will save them too.
So their cries weren't ignored.
Not for a second. That's the beautiful thing here. God hears the cry of the oppressed, and he doesn't just hear. He sees their struggles. He notes their tears, and this is key. In their agony, comes to help.
He takes the initiative.
He does. He doesn't wait for centuries to pass or for them to beg just right. He sovereignly decides to step in and deliver those who trust him. And here's something really fascinating, a detail that's easy to miss.
What's that?
It's how the Israelites actually grew in number despite the oppression. Exodus 1:12 tells us, the more the oppressors afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Wow. So the Egyptians' plan backfired.
Completely. It's this amazing sign of God's absolute sovereignty. No human scheme, no matter how cruel or calculated, can actually stop his ultimate plan for his people. Even when things look absolutely hopeless, his purpose moves forward.
Okay, speaking of hopeless situations, let's shift to Moses. His call story is amazing, but his reaction is, well, maybe not what you'd expect. He gets this incredible call at the burning bush, but he's pretty reluctant.
That's putting it mildly. He throws out 4 big excuses, one right after the other. Like he's trying everything to get out of it.
Right. First he says, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? That's Exodus 3:1, a classic case of self-doubt, right? Feeling totally inadequate.
So relatable, isn't it? How often do we feel like we're not qualified for what's in front of us? We question our skills, our influence. But look how God answers him.
What does he say?
He says, I will be with you. It completely shifts the focus. It's not about who Moses is, it's about who God is and the fact that he'll be with Moses. God's presence is the solution, not Moses' qualifications.
Okay, so excuse number 1 dealt with. What's next?
Moses then asks, basically, okay, when I go to the Israelites and say God sent me, and they ask, what's his name? What do I tell them? That's Exodus 3:13. He's questioning God's credibility, or at least how to convey it. Who are you really?
Another fair question, I suppose.
And God gives him that profound, eternal, deeply personal name, Yahweh. I am, WHO, I am. It's not just a label.
Yeah.
It speaks to his self-existence, his absolute authority, his intimate presence. He is. He's the God who's always there, the God who acts. He's telling Moses, they don't just need to know about me, they need to know me.
Powerful. Okay, excuse number 3.
Moses worries. But suppose they won't believe me or listen to me. Suppose they say, the Lord hasn't appeared to you. That's Exodus 4:1. Now he's worried about external validation, about being rejected.
The fear is what others will think.
Exactly. And what does God do? He gives Moses tangible signs to perform. The staff becoming a snake, his hand becoming leprous, and then healed instantly. These aren't just magic tricks. They're clear demonstrations of divine power meant to back up Moses' message. God's basically saying, don't worry about the proof, I'll provide it. You just deliver the message.
You'd think that would be enough, but there's a 4th excuse.
Right. And this one feels almost desperate. Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. Exodus 4:10. The classic fear of public speaking, feeling inadequate in communication.
I think a lot of people can relate to that one.
For sure. And even then, God is patient. He gently reminds Moses, who made man's mouth? Who makes people mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Isn't it I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. Exodus 4:11-12. It's this amazing promise. God equips those he calls.
But still, Moses isn't convinced.
Unbelievably no. His final plea is just, oh Lord, please send someone else. Exodus 4:13. And this is where God's anger is finally kindled. Yet even in that moment of anger, God's commitment to his plan doesn't waver. He provides Aaron, Moses' brother, to be his spokesperson. It just shows, doesn't it? It's not about us being perfect or having it all together. It's about his enabling power, his willingness to work with our flaws, and his unstoppable commitment to his purpose.
Okay, so after all that back and forth, Moses and Aaron finally go. They stand before Pharaoh, the most powerful man on earth, and deliver God's command. let my people go, Exodus 5.1. Simple, direct.
And Pharaoh's response, just pure arrogance, pure defiance.
What did he say exactly?
He says, "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." Exodus 5.2. He literally saw himself as a god. He was steeped in this materialistic pagan culture that worshipped idols. The idea of a higher power, a sovereign god he had to answer to, he just flat out denied it.
It wasn't just a question, it was like a declaration of war against God.
Absolutely. And this defiance, it had immediate, terrible consequences. Not for Pharaoh initially, but for the Israelites.
Right, things got worse for them, didn't they?
Much worse. Pharaoh's heart hardened, and he decided to punish them. Their forced labor became still more cruel and oppressive. Can you imagine the despair? They were suddenly told they had to gather their own straw for brick making. But the quota, the number of bricks they had to make each day, stayed exactly the same.
An impossible task.
Totally impossible.
Yeah.
They were being set up to fail. Historical accounts mention the great distress this caused and how the Hebrew foremen were brutally beaten when they couldn't meet these quotas.
So this is that rough start you mentioned. They obey God, or at least Moses does, and things immediately get harder.
Exactly. And that experience is so common, isn't it? You step out in faith, you think you're doing what God wants, and boom, things get worse, not better.
Yeah, it makes you question everything. Did I hear God right? Is he really with me? You feel abandoned, maybe even angry?
And the Israelites certainly felt that, as we'll see. That moment right there, when obedience seems to lead to more suffering, that's a massive test of faith for them and, well, for us too.
Okay, let's fast forward now to the absolute peak of this drama. Israel has endured the 10 plagues, each one a direct hit against Egypt's gods, showing God's power. It culminates in that devastating final plague, the Passover, where the firstborn of Egypt die, and Pharaoh finally caves.
He lets them go. A huge multitude of people walking out of Egypt after centuries of slavery.
But Pharaoh's, yes, it wasn't really repentance, was it? It wasn't a change of heart. It was just defeat, fear. His pride was shattered.
Exactly. He was broken by the circumstances, not truly changed. Remember, he even asks Moses, almost desperately, and bless me also, Exodus 12.32. It's like a last-ditch plea from someone terrified but still fundamentally unchanged.
So they leave. They must have felt this huge sense of relief, finally free. But it doesn't last long. They find themselves in, well, an impossible situation.
Totally impossible. Try to picture it. This huge body of water, the Red Sea, stretches out right in front of them. No way across.
An impassable barrier.
On one side, you've got these rugged mountains hemming them in, and then behind them, that sound, the growing rumble of chariots.
Oh, man. Pharaoh changed his mind.
He did. His powerful, well-trained army, as one commentary puts it, is thundering down on them. They want their slaves back, and they probably want revenge, too. So sea in front, mountains beside, army behind. From any human point of view, escape was absolutely impossible.
Completely trapped, nowhere to go.
Nowhere. They were utterly cornered.
And how did the people react? I mean, after seeing 10 plagues.
You'd think their faith would be strong, right?
Yeah.
But no, they were terrified. Imagine just the sheer primal fear as they see that dust cloud getting closer, and they immediately turn on Moses.
What did they say?
Their words are just dripping with bitterness and fear. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Exodus 14.1.
Wow, blaming him, forgetting everything.
Instantly. It just highlights their little knowledge of God and little faith in him, as one source sadly notes. Despite all the incredible miracles they just witnessed, the immediate threat just wiped out the memory of past deliverance. It's painfully relatable, isn't it?
Very. So what does Moses do? How does he respond to this panic?
Well, this is where Moses shines, but really it's God speaking through him. His instructions given this moment of absolute crisis are, well, surprising. He tells this terrified crowd, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again." Exodus 14.5.
Stand firm. Okay, trust God.
But then, almost in the same breath comes this paradoxical command from God. Tell the Israelites to move on. Exodus 14.15.
Wait, stand still but move on. How does that work?
Exactly. It's the core of divine intervention, isn't it? It often doesn't fit our neat logical plans. God's strategy was precise, totally unexpected, and completely supernatural.
So what happened next?
First, that angel of God and the pillar of cloud, the visible sign of God's presence that had been leading them, it moves. It goes from the front of the camp to the back.
Positioning itself between the Israelites and the Egyptians.
Precisely. Like a divine shield. It brought darkness to the Egyptians all night, so they couldn't advance, but it gave light to the Israelites. It literally held the enemy back.
Okay, wow. So they were protected. Then what?
Then comes the moment. God tells Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea." Moses obeys. And the Lord drives the sea back with a strong east wind that blows all night long. It doesn't just push the water aside, it divides the water and dries the ground in between.
Dry ground, in the middle of the sea.
Dry ground. The result is just breathtaking. The Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. They walked right through securely to the other side.
Incredible. And the Egyptians?
They see the path. In their arrogance, their blind pursuit, they rush in after them. They assume the path is for them too. But once they're in the middle, God throws their army into chaos. He jams the wheels of their chariots, makes it incredibly difficult for them to move.
So God actively fought against them.
Absolutely. It was God's action, from the protection by the cloud to the parting of the waters to the confusion of the enemy. The Israelites didn't lift a finger to fight. They didn't need to. God delivered them.
That phrase again, the Lord will fight for you, you need to be still.
That's the essence of it. And the stillness here, it's not just sitting around doing nothing. It's an active trust. It's choosing to follow God's lead, even when it makes no sense, even when every instinct screams run or fight your own way.
And did the Egyptians realize what was happening?
They did. It says later, even the Egyptians recognized that the Lord was fighting for the Israelites. Exodus 14.25. They knew they were up against something supernatural. This wasn't just some local event. It was God showing his power to the whole world, just like he said he would back in Exodus 9.1 scene. He wanted his name declared everywhere.
So this whole event becomes more than just history. It becomes symbolic.
Hugely symbolic. The Red Sea crossing isn't just a fact in a history book. It became this powerful, living metaphor. Think about the Apostle Paul again. In 1 Corinthians 10.2, he actually uses the image of passing through the Red Sea waters as a metaphor for Israel's baptism into Moses, which points towards our baptism in Christ.
Wow, linking it directly to baptism.
Yeah, it's an amazing connection. The whole event symbolizes redemption, deliverance from slavery, and ultimately final salvation, and it points straight to Jesus. Think about the sequence. First, the Passover lamb. Its blood on the doorpost saved them from death in Egypt. Then the crossing through the water to a new life, freedom. It all points to Christ's blood securing our redemption, our forgiveness. As Colossians 1.14 says, Jesus is truly, as Paul says elsewhere, our Passover lamb sacrificed for us, 1 Corinthians 5.7.
The Old Testament story finds its real meaning in him.
Perfectly put. The shadow meets the substance.
So for you listening right now, this means the cross of Jesus Christ is like your great Red Sea moment today.
Exactly. Jesus on the cross. He lifted his hands up not over water, but over death itself. He conquered sin and death, the ultimate barrier separating us from God. He parted those waters of separation, making a way to eternal life that we could never, ever have made for ourselves.
That's the ultimate divine intervention.
It truly is.
Okay, so if we had to boil it down, what's the absolute core life lesson we take away from the Red Sea?
I think it has to be that phrase we keep coming back to. The Lord will fight for you. You need to be still. That's the nugget. That's the wisdom that cuts across centuries and situations, speaking right into our most desperate times.
Because our natural tendency is the opposite, isn't it? We want to trust ourselves, our own plans, our resources. We want to find some kind of security, some guarantee in things we control. Our default is usually to do something, anything.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very human instinct.
Yeah.
We crave control. We want to act, to fix things, to be the hero solving our own problems. But to stay still so we can see God's deliverance. That means doing the exact opposite of what our instincts scream at us to do.
So what does it mean practically?
It means not acting out of fear, not relying on your own strength or cleverness, not panicking and improvising. It means patiently waiting for God's clear direction.
Waiting. That's hard.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But then once that direction is given, like move on was given to the Israelites, you move forward in faith, even if the direction seems totally illogical or impossible by human standards.
So it involves trust in his timing, his methods.
Deep trust and a willingness to cooperate with him, even when his plans seem, well, surprising or upside down compared to ours. It's about stretching your faith, stepping out of your comfort zone, and fundamentally letting God do the work that only he can do.
And this ties back to how God keeps identifying himself in Exodus, right? That phrase, I am the Lord.
Exactly. It appears so many times, something like 15 times, especially around the plagues and when he gives the law later on. Exodus 6, 7, 10, 12, 14. It's woven throughout.
And it's not just a name tag.
Not at all. It emphasizes his absolute authority, his unchanging character, and also, really importantly, his intimate closeness with and loving care for his people. He's the covenant God. That means his love isn't just a feeling. It's based on this binding, unbreakable promise he made with them, a promise he is absolutely committed to keeping.
And that closeness, that God with us idea, it wasn't just abstract for them, was it?
No, it was incredibly tangible. Think about that pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night we mentioned earlier, Exodus 14.24. That wasn't a one-off miracle. It was their daily, constant, visible reminder of God's presence right there with them. He literally dwelt there and spoke also from the cloud. He guided them, protected them, lit their way.
So for us today, when we're walking through our own dark times, our struggles, our suffering,
That's the enduring reminder. You need to fix your eyes on God. Trust him. Trust his leadership, his wisdom, because the promise remains. He will never forsake his children. He's with you when you feel oppressed. He knows your tears. He feels your pain. Isaiah 63:9 says it so profoundly. In all their affliction, he was afflicted. He's not distant. He's right there with you. His solidarity is absolute.
wow. And this whole event also shows us how deliverance happens, doesn't it? It's not about human strength.
Not at all. God was for the Israelites, even with their little faith, their constant grumbling, their fear. He saved them, not because they were amazing warriors or super smart or because they deserved it. He saved them because he is mighty, because he is faithful.
So the Exodus story actually highlights God's power working best when human ability runs out.
Precisely. It paradoxically stresses God's power in seemingly impossible situations because human strength is useless. Our weakness becomes the very stage for his greatest displays of power.
That's a huge reminder for us. Our deliverance from the big battles in life, whether it's money problems, emotional struggles, deep injustices, it comes from God acting, not from us figuring it all out or muscling through.
Exactly. And that applies most fundamentally to the biggest battle, sin. Left to ourselves, we're completely stuck, powerless, we're in a hopeless situation. We need something even bigger, more dramatic than the Exodus.
And we have it.
We absolutely have it. The cross of Christ. What Jesus did there for every single one of us. His sacrifice, his victory over sin and death that offers a deliverance that makes even the Red Sea crossing look small in comparison. It is the ultimate Red Sea moment, making a way where there was absolutely no way.
And after something like that, after seeing God's power and goodness so undeniably, what's the right response? What did the Israelites do?
We see it immediately after they cross the Red Sea. The danger is past, the enemy's gone, and Moses leads them in this incredible song of victory and thankfulness. Exodus 15.118. It's this outpouring of praise.
What does the song say?
It praises God as the mighty warrior. It calls him majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders. Exodus 15.11, it declares no one is like him. And it's not just Moses. Miriam, his sister, a prophetess, her heart just overflows and she leads the women in this spontaneous, joyful, celebratory dance with tambourines. Exodus 15.7-21.
So it wasn't a quiet, reflective moment. It was an explosion of joy and worship.
Yes. And it happened immediately. Before they faced the next set of challenges in the wilderness, this wasn't an afterthought. It was their first response to deliverance.
Which tells us.
It tells us that gratitude and worship aren't just nice things to do if we feel like it. They are the natural, healthy results of experiencing God's goodness. Really appreciating this film. His love isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's actually the foundation for a strong, vibrant spiritual life. It connects us deeply to him. It's almost like a proactive spiritual strategy for resilience.
And this song, this theme of praising God for deliverance, it doesn't end there, does it?
No, it echoes right into the very end of the Bible. In Revelation chapter 15, there's this powerful vision of the redeemed, those who have overcome, standing by a sea of glass. And what are they singing? The Song of Moses, the servant of God, and the Song of the Lamb. Revelation 15.2-4.
The Song of Moses and the Song of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's this timeless hymn of deliverance and victory sung together. It acknowledges God's unwavering love, his perfect justice, his unbeatable power. It praises him for his great and marvelous deeds. It's a reminder for us that because of our deliverance, our rescue from sin and death through Christ, we too have a song to sing. Christ, the Lamb of God, he's the one who leads us through that ultimate Red Sea, from death into eternal life. He's our champion, and our response should be unending gratitude.
Okay, so after a miracle like the Red Sea parting, I mean, that's universe-altering stuff. You'd think the Israelites would be set, right? Faith like rock, never doubt again.
You would think so. But here we get another deep dive into, well, the complexities of human nature. The journey wasn't suddenly easy street. New challenges, new tests cropped up almost immediately.
Like what?
Well, just 3 days after crossing the Red Sea on dry land, they get to a place called Marah, and the water is bitter, undrinkable. Exodus 15:22-27. Can you imagine? 3 days.
Oh, man. The complaining must have started right up again.
Instantly. Then, not long after, they're grumbling relentlessly about food. They missed the food of Egypt, believe it or not, which led to God miraculously providing quail and then manna, that bread from heaven, Exodus 16. And then again, another crisis, no water. This time God provides it from a rock, Exodus 17:1-7.
So it wasn't just one big test at the sea, it was ongoing tests.
Exactly. These weren't just logistical problems of survival. They were spiritual tests designed to teach them dependence, trust, and obedience day by day.
And how did God respond to all the complaining and testing?
What's amazing is his consistent, patient, and specific provision. At Marah, with the bitter water, they cried out in anger. God didn't zap them. He showed Moses a piece of wood. Moses threw it in the water, and the water became sweet.
A piece of wood.
Yeah. It shows us God's solutions are often surprising, maybe even seem strange to us. They require us to look for his wisdom in unexpected ways, not just demand the obvious fix.
And the manna.
The manna was incredible. This heavenly bread appeared on the ground every morning, enough for that day, except on the day before the Sabbath, when they got a double portion so they wouldn't have to gather on the Sabbath.
So it taught them daily dependence.
Exactly. And trust. They couldn't hoard it, except for the Sabbath. They had to trust God would provide again tomorrow. And it was a profound lesson about the Sabbath itself as a day of rest and communion with God. It reinforced what Deuteronomy 8:3 says, "Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord." Physical food used to teach deep spiritual truths.
And the water from the rock?
Again, they were desperate, crying out, almost ready to stone Moses. God tells Moses to strike a specific rock, and water gushes out for everyone. Consistent provision, even in the face of their consistent faithlessness.
And Paul connects this rock to Christ too, right?
He does, powerfully. In 1 Corinthians 10:4, Paul flat out says, that rock was Christ. He's saying Christ himself was supernaturally present with them, providing for their needs in the desert.
Which fits perfectly with Jesus calling himself
The bread of life, John 6, and the living water, John 4. He is the ultimate fulfillment of both the manna and the water from the rock. He meets not just our physical needs, but our deepest spiritual hunger and thirst. He is the true provision.
But this brings us back to that struggle with human nature. Even after all of these miracles, all this provision,
They kept falling into this repetitive pattern of rebellion. They were just notoriously forgetful of God's incredible interventions. They forgot the Red Sea. They grumbled about the manna. They doubted the water. It's easy to judge, but honestly, who haven't felt that way sometimes? Felt depressed, disappointed, dissatisfied, even abandoned by God, even when we know intellectually he's blessed us before. Their story is kind of a humbling mirror for all of us.
yeah, it really is. And then you have the flip side of that coin, Pharaoh. His heart just kept getting harder.
It's such a stark warning. The sources emphasize that God didn't magically harden Pharaoh's heart against his will. It wasn't like supernatural puppetry.
So how did it happen?
God gave Pharaoh the most striking evidence of divine power, plague after plague, miracle after miracle, undeniable proof. But Pharaoh stubbornly refused to heed the light. He chose defiance. And each time he rejected God's command, each time he refused the evidence, it made him the more determined in his rebellion. He was digging his own pit, hardening his own heart through his choices.
That is a chilling thought. It really underscores our own free will, doesn't it? That incredible, sometimes scary gift God gave us.
Absolutely. We have the ability to choose between right and wrong, good and evil, obedience or disobedience. And Pharaoh's story shows the terrible danger of self-deception, how sin, how pride, how stubbornness can blind us, harden our hearts until we make utterly disastrous decisions, even when the truth, the light, is staring us right in the face.
Our choices really do have huge consequences, not just for us, but often for everyone around us too. It's a slippery slope.
It really is, and it's right in this context, dealing with people who are forgetful, rebellious, and prone to hardening their hearts, that God gives the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai.
Right, the law, which often gets a bad rap, seen as just restrictive rules.
But that's not the whole picture. It's helpful to remember the Hebrew word is dabarim, which means words or even promises. One source beautifully highlights that in every command or injunction that God gives, there is a promise.
A promise within the command. How does that work?
Think of it less like a cage and more like, say, a strong fence around a beautiful, safe pasture. The fence isn't there to trap the sheep, but to protect them, to define the safe area where they can flourish. It warns them, Beyond this point lies danger, pain, trouble. In that sense, the law is actually a warrant of freedom. It shows the blueprint for the best possible life, a life of genuine freedom and joy within God's good design.
Okay, that makes sense. And it also acts like a mirror, right?
Exactly. James chapter 1 talks about looking in a mirror. The law shows us our sinfulness. It reveals the dirt, how far short we fall, how much we desperately need cleansing. But just like a mirror, it can only show us the problem. It can't fix it. It can't wash us clean.
So it points us beyond itself.
Precisely. It acts like a signpost, as Galatians 3:24 says, pointing us directly to Christ. He's the one who offers the forgiveness, the cleansing, the real deep inside-out change that the law reveals we need but cannot provide itself.
And here's the really empowering part, I think. God doesn't just tell us what to do, he helps us do it.
That is the crucial piece. What God commands us to do, he enables us to do. Our obedience isn't just about gritting our teeth and trying harder. It's actually fundamentally God's gift. As Philippians 2:36 says, it comes to the power of the Holy Spirit working within us.
Like that heart transplant idea.
Exactly. Ezekiel 6 talks about God removing our hard, stubborn heart of stone and replacing it with a soft, responsive heart of flesh. He puts his Spirit in us to cause us to walk in his ways. Our part is to choose surrender, to yield our stubbornness. And then he provides the supernatural power to actually live it out, to live the life of freedom he designed for us.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Ancient history, theology, human nature. But let's bring it right down to today. What does all this mean for you listening right now? How do these principles apply to your modern life?
Let's start with identifying your own Red Sea moments. What feels like an impossible barrier for you right now? What's that crushing power you're facing?
Maybe that overwhelming debt, that relationship on the rocks, that health battle, that deep disappointment.
Whatever it is, remember this. The God of covenant love, the same God who parted the Red Sea thousands of years ago, he still makes that promise. I will. He is still the God who makes way.
So practically, what does it look like to face those moments? We talked about standing still.
Right. Ask yourself honestly, what does it mean for me in this situation to stand still? How can I wait for God's intervention instead of rushing ahead with my own fearful, panicked, self-reliant solutions?
It's about stretching your faith.
Exactly. You stretch your faith. You trust him and understand that God does the work. He's the one who parts the waters, who creates the path.
Yeah.
And maybe reflect, too, on times when you did step out in faith, believing you heard God's call and things got worse at first.
Yeah, rough start.
Yeah. What did you learn in those tough moments about trusting his timing, his methods, his presence, even when things felt confusing or painful? Those experiences, they forge real, lasting faith, don't they?
They really do. Okay, what's another key takeaway?
This is huge. Cultivating a spirit of remembrance and gratitude. The Israelites were constantly told, remember what God did.
Why was that so important?
It wasn't just a history lesson. It was a vital spiritual discipline. Remembering God's past faithfulness fuels our trust for present challenges and gives us hope for the future. As one source put it, telling it was as much for the speaker as for the hearers. It sinks deep, reminding us of who God is and what he's capable of.
So we need to actively remember what God has done for us personally.
Yes, challenge yourself. How can you make the history of God's deliverance, the Red Sea, the cross, truly existential and personal? How can you internalize it, relive it almost, so it feels like it happened to you today, not just something in a book?
That's a powerful exercise. It strengthens our conviction.
It really does. And tied to that is praising God even in the good times, right? When things seem okay. Why do that?
Why?
Because, as someone wisely said, we never know what calamities we've been spared from. Being grateful now, even for the unseen blessings, the protection we weren't aware of, it builds up our trust reserves for whatever might come next. It prepares our hearts.
That's good. Okay, another core principle, God fights for us.
Yes, that promise from Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you, is bedrock truth. And the ultimate undeniable proof of that reality is Calvary, the cross.
Where Christ defeated Satan.
To give us eternal life. It wasn't just a theological transaction, it was a battle won. And that truth applies daily to our ongoing spiritual warfare every time we face temptation or opposition.
So how do we engage in that battle?
Ephesians 6 tells us to put on the full armor of God, his righteousness, salvation, faith, truth, peace, his word. Notice it's his armor. Our job isn't primarily to fight the enemy head-on in our own strength. Our job, surprisingly, is to be with the Lamb, to stay close to Jesus. Because the Lamb will overcome. He has already won the decisive victory.
Romans 8:37 says we're more than conquerors through him who loved us.
Exactly. We stand firm in faith, we trust, and he conquers through us and for us.
But we also have that warning from Pharaoh. Our hearts can harden too, even seeing God's power.
It's a sobering reality check. We need to ask ourselves, what are the modern-day equivalents of Pharaoh's orders? What temptations, what cultural pressures, what subtle idols cause us to harden our hearts against God's clear guidance, against the light he gives us?
Things we worship instead of God.
It could be. Are we subtly worshiping the creation instead of the Creator? Things like money, status, relationships, comfort, career, personal security, even good things like environmental concerns can become idols if they take God's rightful place in our hearts, if they command our ultimate allegiance.
So it comes back to surrender.
Constant, daily surrender. Because let's be honest, in our own stubborn hearts, we don't always want to do what is right. We know what it is, but we refuse to do it. We all have that internal Pharaoh sometimes. We desperately need God's restraining grace, his help to keep us from making those disastrous choices that lead to pain and regret.
Pharaoh's story is a tragic warning about persistently refusing the light.
It truly is. The more you resist, the harder your heart gets, the blinder you become, making it harder and harder to turn back. It leads to self-destruction.
Okay, let's bring it all together. The ultimate Red Sea moment for every single person.
It has to be the cross of Christ. Just like the Exodus was this unique, defining, unprecedented, and unrepeatable event for Israel, the cross is your personal, ultimate, unrepeatable moment of deliverance.
A greater deliverance.
Absolutely. A greater deliverance from something far worse than Egyptian slavery. The universal bondage of sin. And Jesus died for us individually. Not just for humanity in general, but for you personally as a unique, beloved child. And his blood, his sacrifice, must be applied to the soul, just like the Passover blood had to be applied to the doorposts. It needs to become personal.
And we're delivered not just from something, but for something.
Exactly. We're not just rescued from danger or punishment. We were delivered to be transformed into his image, to reflect his character, to live a new life of freedom and purpose and relationship with him. The cross isn't just a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's the anchor, the absolute foundation of our faith. It's what allows us to build not just a temporary tent of praise, but a lasting cathedral of covenant in our lives, a deep, enduring relationship with God that stands strong through everything now and for eternity.
Wow, what a journey. From Egypt through the sea, through the wilderness, right to the cross, and into our lives today. Powerful stuff. Hashtag, outro. Well, there you have it. We've taken a deep dive into the Red Sea crossing, and hopefully you see it so much more than just an ancient story. It's really a living blueprint, isn't it? Showing how God delivers, how he guides, how he empowers you to trust him, especially when you feel trapped in those impossible situations.
The core message is clear. God fights for you. He has already provided the way through. Remember that powerful, liberating truth. The Lord will fight for you. You need to be still.
So as you go about your week, here's something to mull over, a thought to carry with you from this deep dive. If the Red Sea crossing and ultimately the cross represent God's incredible, dramatic intervention to save, to make a way where there seemed to be no way, what specific impossible area are you facing right now?
Where are you maybe still trying to fix it yourself, feeling overwhelmed, holding on to it tightly?
Instead of striving and struggling in your own strength, how will you actively choose to engage your faith this week? How will you practice that standing still, that active trust, allowing God to fight for you, believing he can lead you too onto dry ground, just like he did for his people all those years ago?
We really encourage you to reflect on that. Let the truth of God's immense love, his unstoppable power, and his unwavering commitment to you sink deep into your heart this week.